I mean, there are two approaches generally that I see taking, and one is the sort of community first approach, and the other one is the progressive decentralization approach. So decentralization refers to, well, in the technology term, it has a slightly different definition. It's about having no single point of failure on the tech system. So let's say instead of having one database, you have a distributed database and so on. But
Mm.
for the human aspect, for let's say for the organizational aspect, for me, the decentralized bit refers a lot more about decentralizing power. So instead of having a single person who's like the sort of dictator, like a CEO is the sun king in an organization and they have all the power and they can fire or hire people, they can change any decision. Here is about decentralizing that authority and making more the group, the collective to have the final authority. So in the community first approach, what people do is there is usually, well, at the Genesis there is always a small group, whether it's a single founder or a small group of founders and so on, and they have an idea and start refining that idea, and as they refine that idea, they end up creating some sort of material document that can be shared with a bunch of people, and then around that maybe others will come that think that is something that needs to be built, and suddenly you have a bit of a movement and maybe a bit of a community, or at least a group of people who are rallying around that idea.
Yeah.
And then you put in place these technology mechanisms, essentially a mechanism to make decisions. So the most basic was a voting tool, the majority voting tool, that's where it started. And then you distribute some tokens to everyone which enable them to vote in the same way that in a limited company or in a publicly traded company, the number of shares determines the number of votes. So that was
Yeah.
kind of like the most basic original governance system. And suddenly you have this community that can make decisions, but has no product yet. And so then with thanks to this decision mechanism and this vision idea that you have, you then try to build a product or build something that will make the community self-sustaining. Sometimes it's a survey, so I don't know, ends up being a bunch of developers, and they're like, we're gonna be a developer agency or
Mm.
a marketing agency, or we're gonna build some sort of software platform that does X, Y, Z.